Hello everybody, my name is Trent and welcome back to another installment of Life Stories. Today, we got some stories coming at you from Reddit/entitledparents. So, without further ado, let's get it started. Our first story of the day is titled, EM Leaves Me in a Car Alone with Her Kids and More. So, here's some backstory. When my family immigrated to America, we didn't have any friends or anybody to show us how USA worked. So my dad decided to befriend people who used to work in IT, software, not the clown. He made friends with a certain ED, and thus my mom became friends with EM. EM has a pair of twins who are really wild and somewhat entitled, but if she actually cared about them, I think they would be pretty nice kids. Part 1 of the story. EM leaves me and her twins in a car alone. So, EM decided to go shopping for stationery supplies, and decided to bring along my mom. My dad was at work, so my mom had to bring me along because she actually cares about me, not like EM. EM decided it would be a great idea to have me, a 7-year-old at that point, in the car in roasting hot weather with her twins, who were 3 at the time. I just stayed quiet and didn't complain because I thought this would be a 10-minute or 20-minute trip. I was wrong. About 30 minutes in, one twin wakes up and obviously isn't very happy that some weird creep is sitting next to him instead of his mom. So he starts bawling his eyes out and wakes up the other twin. The other one starts crying a little, but eventually stops and just sits there. But the other one kept bawling, and I was 7 and an only child, so I had no idea how to handle them. I just sat there and tried to comfort him with stuff like, "Be a good boy like your brother." Eventually, after 20 minutes or so, they came back, and I was obviously pissed and got somewhat angry at my mom. But I kept my feelings to myself because I thought this was an isolated incident. Part 2. EM gets angry at my mom for scolding her kids for injuring her brother. At this point of the story, I was 10 years old and had a 1.5-year-old brother. We were at EM and ED's house, and my brother was just playing with their kids when they hit him or something. I wasn't there to witness it, so I don't know what happened. I just know that my brother got injured and started crying a lot. My mom scolded them, and they went to EM and said that my mom hit them or something, and EM got cross with my mom. And when we went home, she said stuff like, "Why did you hurt my sweet angels?" as well as talking some crap on WhatsApp. My mom got pissed at her too, but they got over it after a while and went back to being friends. Part 3. EM wants us to go on a road trip, hiking, barbecue, etc. in the middle of Corona. So, EM and ED are the most stupid and restless people I've ever seen. The title is pretty self-explanatory, so I won't dive into details. But just why? These people value their stupid entertainment over the lives of their friends and children. They're also obnoxious tourists, as when we went on the trip to Lake Tahoe and Yosemite with them last year, they littered all over the place, wrecked the cabin and hotel we stayed in, made my mom and my brother, who was still the youngest of the party, get the most crappy rooms. Obviously, since my brother is young and gets sick very easily, they needed heated rooms, right? Well, there were heated rooms in an extension of the cabin, but ED, who planned the trip, said, "Oh, that's not for guest use." Absolute idiots. We all had to share miserable rooms and had no Wi-Fi. It's not very important, but if the cabin has Wi-Fi, then why not use it? I had to sleep on a bunk bed in the lower living room, but I was fine with it since I'm not young anymore. What's the most sad part about this all? The fact that EM and ED do not care for their kids. When we go to their house or to parties or anything involving another family, they just forget about their children. That's how most of these accidents involving my brother or others happen, because they don't give a damn about them. EM cares more about Gucci handbags and furniture than her own 2 living, breathing kids. They're brats sometimes, but I'm pretty sure it's just to get attention, because EM gives none of that to them. They also have a real social problem and are really shy to the point that they just go completely mute when somebody else talks to them, whether they be speaking calmly or scolding them. Sometimes I've lashed out at them, and when I did that, EM took no disciplinary action against me, like she probably should have. She just picked them up and threw them somewhere out of her sight and then continued talking to my mom. except she was yelling at me for being an idiot. I hope EM realizes the fault in her actions and starts to actually care about her kids before they become teenagers. It's always sad to see kids struggling to find a parental figure in their formative years like that, but we can only hope the best for them in the future. Who knows, maybe they'll grow up and stop being brats. Our next story is titled, Karen and Dave Tried to Get Me Fired and Punished After Endangering Their Kid's Life, air quotes, at a water park. Okay, so I've been reading y'all's EM stories, and I thought I would share my first Karen experience. So, this happened last year when I, a 16-year-old female, worked as a lifeguard at our state park's local water park. There isn't any standing water, just fountains and a medium-sized water slide. The lifeguards are there to just make sure the kids aren't playing too rough and ensure that people are following the water park rules. So, it's my second to last day before the end of the summer, which is when the water park closes down for the year. It's towards the end of my 5-hour shift. In the water park, which is pretty small by the way, there are usually 2 lifeguards next to each other. They monitor the slide, while another lifeguard sits at the entrance to ensure people have tickets to enter. The 2 people at the slide usually chat while they're watching the big slide, because it's pretty easy to do both. Of course, we do our jobs, but unless there's a field trip, the kids usually follow the rules. My co-worker, who we'll call Falcon, comes over to me from the entrance when we're rotating positions. We trade places every 15 minutes, and discreetly tells me that the lady, Karen, on the other side of the water park, filed a complaint against me for letting the kids roughhouse too much at the top of the slide. Now, I must say, we have 2 separate areas in the water park. We have a smaller, less crowded, and less intense area for kids 2 to 5 years of age to play, and we have a big slide for kids older than that. Karen's son was about 3 and playing in the big kid area, which is not a good idea, because no matter how careful the big kids are, it's pretty easy for really little ones to get tripped over, hence why we have a separate area for toddlers. That's fine and dandy. I've encountered a few annoying parents during my time at the water park. It's like a water hole for entitled moms. I tell the big kids on the slide to be more careful. They weren't even being rough in the first place, but I try to amend Karen's qualms. Karen does not think this is enough. A few minutes later, she storms over to me and says, "My kid is going to get seriously hurt if you don't step up and actually do your job." I apologize and once again remind the big kids to be cautious. I also let her know that there are separate areas for little kids if she's concerned about that. She rolls her eyes and walks away. I head back to my position and let my other co-worker, Robin, know about the whole situation. A few minutes pass, and me and Robin are chatting and joking a bit. I see Falcon walking towards me and realize that Karen has striked again. Apparently this time, she called the park ranger's office to complain about me endangering her child's life and demanded that I must be punished immediately. Now, this pisses me off. The park rangers are not our managers, and many of them are retired police officers. If there are aggressive people, aggressive animals, or dangerous situations, you call the park ranger. If you are mad at a 16-year-old lifeguard, calling the rangers is stupid and wasting their time. As Falcon is explaining this to me, Karen comes up behind me, and this time she's brought backup. Dave, a 60-year-old redneck-looking man, has arrived as well. Karen yells at me some more, telling me that she has already called the authorities to let them know about my neglect. Dave, his face beet red, gets really close to me and screams in my face about how I was laughing at her child getting hurt. He didn't get hurt. And that I was a stupid B-word. Karen adds on that she's going to make sure I get fired. I know it was unprofessional of me, but after Karen says, "You're not going to have a job after I'm through with your manager," I burst out laughing. We are already understaffed, and I found it ridiculous that she was so entitled to believe that her opinion would make me lose my job. Of course, this angers Karen, and she screeches, "This is unacceptable!" By this point, our squabble has attracted the attention of every other guest in the park. It's a very small park, so when I say everyone, I mean everyone is watching us. Karen begins to pack up her things, and my coworker tells me that the park ranger is on his way. Not to punish me, but to escort Karen and Dave out of the park. At this point, other guests are criticizing Karen and Dave, and one lets them know that they should be embarrassed. I guess they were feeling the heat because Karen and Dave quickly left. I'm kind of disappointed. I didn't get to see the park ranger kick them out. But I live in a small town, so hopefully they get what's coming to them through social retribution. Obviously, the water park is shut down this summer, but I still live in fear that someday I will run into Karen and Dave, ready to seek revenge on teenagers trying to do their minimum wage jobs. I do believe that Karen and Dave ought to look at a dictionary, because if you look at lifeguard, it's not a synonym for babysitter. Anyway, with that story concluded, we are all out of time for today's episode, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank all of you, as usual, for tuning in to another episode of Life Stories. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more Reddit content coming your way. My name is Trent, and I hope to see you guys soon.